if you want a longer payment because you can't afford it,
Right.
we don't want you to have that vehicle. We want you to have a budget that you can follow so that you can have a good life and reach your financial dreams. Because that really cool diesel truck, I mean, find another way to get mulch to your house for a minute. And then
Hey guys, welcome to the Guiding You Forward podcast. And today I'm joined by Janine Lynch, who is our VP of Indirect Lending. And today we're talking about all things auto loans. Thanks for joining me today.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So what is indirect lending exactly?
It's a good question. I'm going to rehearse this for my dad because he always asks me that too.
Okay,
He'll look at me on LinkedIn and say, what do you do? So indirect lending means that it's lending, it's applications that come through indirectly. So
Okay.
directly would be service center, branches, online.
Right.
That's directly to Mountain America or our team members. Indirect means through a third party. And so for vehicle financing, that means through our trusted dealers.
Gotcha.
We don't prefer either way. We want our members to have a vehicle that they like and trust. So any channel is perfectly fine. It's just not uncommon to want to sit there and close at a dealership.
Okay. Because that's what we're going to be talking about
Great.
today.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into it. Can anybody come in, sign up to be a member, and get an auto loan through us? Obviously, as long as they qualify. What does that look for? Like, say you're not a member of Mountain America, and you're looking to finance a vehicle. You look on our website. We have great rates. Does it make sense, like, to become a member and kind of finance a vehicle that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, being part of a credit union is just an advantage because we're not for profit.
Right.
And so that means we put all of our extra effort into our members. I prefer Mountain America, but I would love
Right.
anyone to be financed through a credit union. And at Mountain America, we have membership qualifications. So if you're not a member already, you might be part of a select employer group.
Right.
And if you don't know that, you would just tell your branch team member, who you work for. There's also geographic qualifications that you could have, and some other things like maybe a family member is already a member of Mountain America.
Are there any perks that you would say to financing through a credit union like Mountain America as opposed to maybe other traditional lenders or even banks? I mean, you mentioned that we're a not-for-profit. That's very helpful, but what does that mean for like the average consumer when they're going to purchase a vehicle?
Yes. So I did, been here a year and a half, and I was in banking or fintechs exclusively before that for the rest of my career.
Oh, wow.
And so there's lots of good companies everywhere. But the advantage for a credit union is we aren't accountable to shareholders first. We're accountable to our members.
Right.
So if you come into a branch or you go to a dealer and you finance through indirect, we are looking for what's best for the member. Sometimes that could mean that maybe an older vehicle or maybe a different structure might be better with another institution, and we're not going to try to convince someone to do otherwise.
Right.
In general, we can always find a solution or build a budget or a financial plan so that they can get the vehicle that they want. But the benefit for a credit union is we really want what's best for the consumer, which hopefully will be our member.
Right. And I know this just from personal experience too. Like, our tellers can kind of help work out what you can afford and what you can take on as far as what you want your payment to be and everything. And that's probably, I would assume, and I guess I know this from firsthand experience, having financed a vehicle through Mountain America, that it seems to be a lot lower pressure of a situation normally, since our tellers are kind of like working with all of your finances and aren't, trying to pressure you into being like, oh, well, we can extend the years out further to get the payment where you want,
yes.
right?
Yes. So they really want to look for, okay, what's your overall financial picture? How do we make you financially healthy? If you come in because you want a car, that's great, but maybe there's some other things that we can do for that budget because we
Right.
want to get someone to an affordable budget in a reasonable vehicle.
Right.
We all might want a luxury vehicle or truck,
Yeah.
but that might not be what the reality is. That's something you'll get different from a credit union than maybe another type of financial
There's a
institution.
little bit of that financial guidance to kind of walk you through all of your finances
Yes.
and say, hey, this is really what we should be looking at here. And
Yep. And maybe you don't need a car right now. You just want one.
Right.
We might even help you restructure your debt first. So the other payments will get lower, and maybe in a month or two, you'll come back for a car.
Or even with the situation where like maybe you currently own a vehicle and you've paid it down quite a ways and you're looking to like maybe trade it in or sell it and do that. I assume our team would help walk you through that process as well.
Yes. They'll go through evaluation. JD Power is one of our favorites. Some other markets like Arizona's Kelly Blue Book, but our branch team members will be able to help with that. If it comes through the dealer channel, we make sure that that valuation is matched so that everything's fair.
Right.
And remember, our dealers have contracts with them, so they're our trusted dealers. They've gone through due diligence and things like that.
Oh, that's great.
I know it is a little anxious going to a human that you don't know to talk about your finances.
Right. Yeah. Naturally.
Right? Let's probably on the top 5 list of things you don't want to do, like
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
So we do have good online tools. So maybe you want to go to jdpower.com and see what your trade-in's worth. Maybe you want to have a checklist online for your budget. We have those tools for Mountain America too. So maybe you could just get started there and then build up the courage if you're anxious to go see someone in person.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I believe we do have like a used car checklist,
Yes.
I believe, on our website as well. So if you're evaluating a car even,
Yes.
we have that resource.
And that's a nice check. Hopefully you can find a trusted dealer. If you can't, our branch team members will tell you where to go for sure,
Yeah.
depending on what you're looking for. But, I feel like I'm an expert in consumer lending. I'm not a mechanic.
Right.
Right. And so that checklist is really helpful because I just bought a car in June myself.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And I get anxious going in, and I know the dealers, right?
Yeah, you know them personally.
Right. And
Yeah.
I wanted a used car. But I'm like, what's the oil thing called and the stuff and that's like one extra thing.
Right.
So you just go to our checklist and that like enables you with the tools that you need.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about maybe extending the years. Sometimes there's pressures. Not all dealers are like this, but there is some pressure of like, oh, if this is a vehicle you want, we can extend the years and terms and everything. So just jumping into maybe a juicier part of this is starting out with like, what is the rate environment we're in right now? What does that look like? I know I would dare say a lot of people are feeling the economic squeeze right now from inflation and a lot of other pressures, with tariffs. So what are we looking at in general? And I know that's a big question because there is a lot of points to it, like the tariffs, the rate environment,
Yeah.
what the Fed's doing. But what does that look like overall right now for consumers?
Yeah, I think that's scary too because you're asking the general normal consumer to be an economist. And
Right, yeah.
I heard from an economist last month in person a fact that 49% of all Wall Street Journal economists are correct at any given time.
Okay.
So even the experts,
terrifying.
like looking in their crystal ball, are only right less than half the time, right?
Right.
And so those macro factors, the Fed meets 8 times a year
Right.
to look for the safety and soundness of our economy. And we have been waiting, the larger we in the economy have been waiting for rates to drop. They stayed stable last month. At any financial institution, we'll watch those trends. But we did decide as a credit union for August to still drop rates for our members.
Oh, great.
We can't always promise that, but we're in a position where we want to do that and we're thriving. And so that's very advantageous to our members
Right.
and hopefully some new members. So there's that. I know there's a lot of talk about tariffs. It's all
Yeah,
over the
right.
place, right? Well,
Especially with new vehicles, right? Because there is a lot of pressure to move manufacturing maybe back to the U.S. and impose additional tariffs on outside countries, and a lot of vehicles are made in Mexico and Canada.
Yep.
So, yeah, what does that look like
so new car
currently?
pricing year over year has gone up slightly. I think a lot of it is again the crystal ball effect of
Right.
of reacting to that. It's gone up slightly, but incentives from those OEMs, from those manufacturers, have also gone up.
Okay.
So if you're a smart shopper, and again, maybe that makes you not finance with us, unfortunately, right?
Right.
But we want your full financial wellness to be happy.
Yeah.
So the incentives based off what the new cars are slightly increasing for kind of balances out.
Yeah.
For used cars, the price has dropped year over year slightly.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Or is trending that way still in the last few months. No tariff impacts there. There could be parts and things like that, but we haven't seen anything. And we have a lot of trusted dealers, so they haven't seen anything. But what does that mean? That means if you have a used car in good condition, your trade-in value might be a little better for some of those brands of cars.
Oh, interesting.
Because let's say some of the new cars coming in for some of the brands are harder to find, maybe
Right.
slightly increased. Well, that trade-in value for that older vehicle, it's a hot commodity.
Right.
So this is kind of the way to be a smart shopper and figure that out.
Oh,
And
great.
you can go online and figure that out, but remember your trade-in value is going to go to the condition of your car, and it's kind of the condition that the dealer feels the car is in.
Right.
Right? So build a friendship, but I would say listen to your dad and get your car detailed
Yeah.
before you trade your car, and it makes a huge
It's a
difference.
good tip.
Yeah.
Get your car detailed. You'll get a higher
That's right.
trade-in value
Yeah.
for it.
Yep.
Going off of the question of trade-in value, should you go in pretty prepared for what you know the car's worth? Because like I've had friends that go in pretty blind, and they're like, "Oh, they said they'll give me $8,000 for it," and I'm like, "You're crazy
Yeah.
if you take $8,000 for
Yeah.
that." And so, is there any recommendation to like consumers of like maybe use Kelley Blue Book or any of these services to kind of know what the vehicle is worth before trading it in?
Yeah, I would say definitely go to JD Power and type in. It's very easy. Put your VIN in, because the VIN's important because you have special features and
Right,
things like
all
that in
the
your vehicle.
options.
And it'll tell you. Now, it grades on, good, fair, condition, things like that. So
Right.
be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Try to get those 2 price quotes, you know what I mean? Get
Right.
the Happy Meal stuff out of the car and,
Right.
and get it clean. And then you'll know going in, and you'll be armed with that information. Tell your dealer, hey, I looked on JD Power. I feel like this is in good condition.
Right.
This is what it shows me for the trade-in value, and you can start to
Right.
negotiate from there.
Well, and even if you have the ballpark, right, of like, well, it's probably between fair and good. I
Yeah.
know that this is like an acceptable range for what they should be offering me, as opposed to just being like, that sounds
Yep.
good.
Yeah, and it's a non-biased, industry tool.
Right.
So, and most
they don't
dealerships will
care,
use it. Kelley Blue
right.
Book's fine too.
Yeah.
In Arizona, it's much more common, but either one will give you good information.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's
the
awesome.
our branch team members can help with that too.
Okay.
But yeah,
Awesome. So with mortgages, right, you go get a pre-approval for a home before you even go shopping. Is that process similar? Would you suggest a similar process
Yeah.
be taken for purchasing a vehicle?
I think we don't think about that a lot when you go buy a car, because you're like, I can just go buy a car. I'll just go to that lot and go buy a car.
Right.
I think it's important. It'll give you less anxiety, in my opinion, my professional opinion, because they're going to prepare you for the hike that you're going to take. So they'll help you with your budget. And we have so many great member stories of where we've been able to even consolidate debt first.
Oh, great.
So your other payments on some of your debt could even be lower, unrelated to your auto loan, right?
Right.
And we're looking out for our members' best
Or free up
interest.
some income that could be put towards that vehicle.
Right. Who doesn't
right?
want more money?
Yeah.
For the gas
Exactly,
that you're going to
yeah.
have. So you got your budget, you'll know your credit score, and then there's the cost of ownership. So you're already down the road of thinking, okay, how do I sit there and get this car? Our branch team members will be like, okay, have you done an insurance quote first?
Right.
You don't want that surprise.
big one, yeah.
Are you changing to a diesel truck? So now you're going to have more gas, things like that.
Right.
So that overall cost of ownership, just to have someone objective, that's a new friend, sitting you down and making a plan, that's going to set you up for that hike that you're about to take.
Right. And
Yeah.
some of those dealers offer oil changes as well, too. So that
Yeah.
might take some burden off of you,
Yeah.
right? Not having to maintain it
Yeah,
that
and
way.
it's not a bad place to wait in most dealerships now.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you,
Pretty comfy.
Yeah.
In most cases, obviously we have partnerships with certain dealerships, but if you go to a dealership and say, hey, I really want to finance this through Mountain America, is that possible? Is
Yes.
that a situation that like most dealers accommodate as well?
Yes. In fact, many of the dealers that we've onboarded, and we have great business development tactics, but we're so grateful for our brand that we have a line of dealers waiting to come on our program, because they're like, so many of your members come here and they're nicely demanding to
Great,
use
to use us.
Yeah, to use us.
Right.
And so that's how a lot of our dealers find us, in addition to our business development. So absolutely, especially in our Mountain America region, most of the major dealers are a partner with us.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're happy to do that.
Very cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. So talk to me about industry trends. Like that's always moving and shaking up. And I mean, even in the automotive world, right? We're seeing that switch to EVs too.
Yeah, I mean, at Mountain America in general, we're very heavy in used car sales.
Okay.
Of course, we have lots of new.
Right.
And EV tends to be new. EVs year over year have depreciated even more after purchase than expected, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's not highly sought after right now, but it's a great option if you're passionate about it.
Right.
To lease it. Again, that would be through that OEM's leasing.
Right.
But that's kind of something to think about too if you're not sure. The thing about EVs too is we don't want anyone to have buyer's remorse.
Right.
If it's your primary grocery getter, your school runner, your things like that, make sure that you have a battery at home, right?
Right.
Make sure that you have the things to take care of it. And other than that, it's super cool.
Yeah.
If you've ever driven them, like they're
Yeah.
super cool cars. And we do have good, trusted used EV dealers too. So that might be an option also.
Cool.
Industry trends, I think, there'll, of course, more investment in EV, but it sounds like from what we've read from our reputable sources that hybrids are really going to be pushed for eco-friendliness and efficiency, things like that.
Right. Even the CEO of Toyota, right, has kind of come out and said like, EVs, we're having some problems with that too. Infrastructure, right? Even feeding them on the grid is a problem, that they feel kind of these hybrids might be the future of economic movement, right?
Yeah,
in
it's a good balance between, yeah.
Right.
But if you live in an area where there's resources to charge your vehicle and you have your home charger set up, go for it.
It's a good option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. You mentioned leasing a little bit, especially with the EVs. And as a car guy myself, I know this is a hotly contested subject between like, what is the balance between, does it make more sense for me to buy or lease this thing? And like, how do I make that decision? Right? Because a lot of companies, especially now with the tariffs, wanting to still move vehicles, are offering a lot of incentives from a leasing standpoint. So how would you recommend somebody like make that determination between, is leasing the right option for me, or is it make more sense to own this?
Unfortunately, there's not an easy answer. It's kind of like, what kind of sneakers should you buy?
Right.
Right? For the general population. Well, are you a runner? Are you going to be a mall walker? Those types of things.
Yeah.
But I think the pros and cons generally for leasing are you could have a more luxury car for a lower payment than you would have if you're going to purchase or finance that.
Right.
Traditionally. So that's something to think about. The cons, you might want to think about the mileage and things like that, right?
But some of them have mileage restrictions on them, right?
Just depending on the lease itself. So again, it's just sitting down with each person saying, okay, what are you looking for? Well, maybe I'm just driving from work to home every day and my average mileage is low and like, I really want to look cool and be comfortable in my car.
Or have something brand new,
right?
Latest.
Or maybe before, as a car guy, you're probably pretty loyal to brands.
Yes.
Right?
Very. Yeah.
And so a lot of lease customers, it's the first time they're switching to the dark side.
To a different brand.
Right?
Yeah.
They're switching to a different brand and they don't really want to make that commitment. 3 years or whatever is probably more appropriate. So it just kind of depends on the person. Yeah.
Very interesting. So would you recommend that maybe is like, if you are thinking about swapping brands, you have been loyal to a certain brand or whatever, to maybe consider a lease as like a trial run for some of this?
Yeah, especially for the luxury brands.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's like a serious commitment.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of that business plan for the leasing for those luxury brands. Is like, okay, try us out. There's less risk, lower payment. If you don't love it, then we'll find something else at the end. A lot of people, do get hooked.
Right.
And sometimes their next vehicle is the purchase of that or used one of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you think, you might not even, like, obviously this is maybe not in your exact expertise, but do a lot of car companies use that as almost like to gain market share, is like almost like a loss leader is what we would say in marketing, right? Is like, hey, there's this lease. We might even be taking a little bit of a hit on this, but it gets you into the brand and gets you accustomed to all of our features and all of that.
Yeah, that's a very smart tactic. Yeah,
Right.
is kind of for that low commitment because it's such a loyalty to that. Now, we don't offer leasing through our branches,
Right.
But we do through indirect. And so
okay.
if somebody comes into a branch and wants a lease, our team members work together. We'll help you out. It's going to work out just fine. We communicate. Our underwriting teams communicate throughout the day to help our members one way or another.
Oh, great. I didn't even know that we did that.
Yeah, we
the
do.
leasing side of it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. With most of the bigger car dealerships.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Would you say the same considerations are true with like lease to own programs, right? I've heard sometimes there is some caution between like leasing it and then they give you the option to just buy it at the end of that. Does that change the equation, or is it still kind of more the same?
So if I was giving you advice as my friend, and you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I would say, in general, I would be careful for that because that
Right.
comes down to any retail installment contract. That's what the auto contract's called that you sign.
Right.
And so be careful of those terms and conditions and stipulations. If we bring on a relationship for lease, we've already vetted them. We have a relationship with them. They have good customer service. We know the contracts that are coming out, and we have a contract with them, so we could be your advocate in case something goes wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say it doesn't have to be through us, but I would be careful for those special gimmicks.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but in my own realm as being a car guy, the thing that stands out to me the most is just the exorbitant costs of vehicles. They just continue to rise, I think. And so, like, I mean, looking at a lot of like new Camaros that are optioned out are like 40, 50. Any of the special models are coming up on 100, and like especially diesel trucks these days are sometimes north of $100,000 to get into one of those. And a lot of the companies seem to be pushing like extending terms, and I know that's an option that we sometimes offer, but what's your general guidance on that, of when you're trying to make that determination of is it worth financing something for 6, 7, even 8 years on a vehicle? What should I be looking at on whether that's worth it to me or not, right? Because again, I think it's going to be pretty personal.
Yeah.
But what would I be looking at on that?
It'd be more like, okay, why do you need that long of a term?
Right.
And again, sometimes we're in the business of talking people out of buying cars,
right?
Which is a little counterintuitive,
right?
But it's like,
but another great reason to go to a credit union, because they're not just trying to get you into the vehicle,
because we're really passionate about making sure you can afford your vehicle.
Right.
And so if you want, let's say 72 months, right? Why? Well, maybe you have a lifestyle thing going on and you just want to make sure that your payment's low and you plan to pay it off faster anyway.
Right.
Right? That's not a bad idea.
Great, yeah.
If it's a used vehicle, I'd hope you'd buy a warranty.
Right.
To protect your collateral. The car's the collateral.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yep. So I would say used vehicle. I just bought a used vehicle. I bought a warranty.
Right.
Right. And Gap, of course. So it's like, why do you want that longer payment? I think that's fine. If you want a longer payment because you can't afford it,
right,
we don't want you to have that vehicle
to be stretched.
Right.
Yeah.
We want you to have, a budget that you can follow so that you can have a good life and reach your financial dreams.
Right.
Being really stretched because that really cool diesel truck. I mean, find another way to get mulch to your house for a minute, and then
right, yeah,
right. And so you be prepared if you go into a branch. We might talk you out of maybe something
of what you want, maybe
that's a little risky to make a different plan.
Right.
But yeah, so that's a good reason. Maybe you just want a lower payment, and I have a 5-year loan, and I have a 5-year warranty.
Right.
So I feel fine about that.
But you're kind of increasing, like, not that this is true across the board. You would have to look at the manufacturer and the depreciation rate.
Yep.
But probably a little bit more likely to wind up upside down in something kind of the longer that's stretched out, I would assume, as well.
Yep. You could, and especially it depends on the collateral. Some
Right.
are really going to treat you good. And again, it comes back to nothing to do with financing, but are you getting the maintenance on your car that you should?
Right.
So, a lot of our trusted dealers, you get free oil changes for 2 years.
Yeah, that's
Like, you
amazing.
should do that, right?
Yeah. Definitely take that.
Yeah. Looking for a dealership that can do the maintenance for you
Right.
isn't a bad idea. That VIN is in their system.
Right.
That means they'll have parts for it. And so it might last a really long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that that's, not that dealers are kind of doing this on purpose, but I know that this is a common thing out there. I know from personal experience, because this did happen to me when I purchased my personal vehicle. I came into the dealership, I knew what I wanted, and I knew how much I wanted to pay, but they just kept being like, well, what do you want your monthly payment to be? They just kept pushing that, and I kept having to reel them and be like, no, I want to talk about total value of the car.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the big paradox is you go into a dealership and you know how much you want to pay for your vehicle, and then they might ask you, well, how much do you want for your payment? And
Right.
that started historically because it's really with good intentions for affordability.
Sure.
Right? And I think sometimes that has a bad name for it. So if you go on our website, go to the loan calculator, and you'll be able to adjust the price of the vehicle, and then there'll be different tiers for the interest rates and term, and you can kind of drop that down and see what the range is, so that you can come up with that monthly payment, but that you also stick to what the price of the car is and the term. So you want to say, this is the price of the car I'm looking for, this is about my monthly payment, and I'm looking for this type of term.
Right.
And our tool will just give you all that together.
And then you get a range based on what you think you'll qualify for
Yeah.
as far as interest rate
Yep.
goes.
And that makes the conversation a little less anxious when you want to negotiate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you know if that calculator, so one thing that I know when I purchased that first car, it was the first time I did that through a dealership. And one thing I didn't really take into account is them folding in the licensing and title and all of those fees With our calculator, does it estimate any of those, or what would you recommend as far as estimating? Because that's almost like a surprise cost. Like I keep comparing it to mortgage, but like closing costs can
you're right.
sometimes be
Yeah.
a surprise. Or
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I didn't think it'd be that much, or And I think licensing and titling and taxes can be a surprise that you're like, okay, my budget is 25. I take it right up to 25 because that's what I feel like I can. But with taxes, titles, and fees, you're looking at like more like 28, 29.
Yep, taxes, titles, fees, gap, all that stuff. It could be closer
Right.
to 29 for sure.
Okay.
And really, it's like, if look at the state that you live in, you have to do some manual math. That's a great suggestion for our loan calculator. But
Right.
yeah, in general, you could add about 20% just to see.
Okay.
But when you go into the dealer, when you have those things,
Is that a good rule of thumb? Is like the 28% ish?
it depends on the state, but yeah.
Yeah.
When you go into the dealer, you'll have that ready.
Okay.
And you could say, okay, I know this car's 25, but I'm not going to drive an almost new car off the lot with no gap.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
I know I need a warranty and taxes and all the other fees.
Yeah. You got to register it.
Right.
Yep.
So here's what I'm looking at, probably 29.
Okay.
And so it's a good estimate. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Buying a new car, like we talked about, can be a very stressful process. So if I'm like freaking out, do we have a quick checklist of what I should remember? What are the most pertinent things for me to remember?
Yes. And I feel like I am an expert, and I just bought a car this summer, and it's still stressful just because of financial conversations.
Yeah, there you go.
So ask you to remember one thing. If you're stressed or you're nervous and you can't remember, go online and book an appointment in a branch with us or use our online tools. That's all you need to remember. So
Well, that's great.
great. Thank you
Great.
for having me today.
Yeah, it's been great having you, and we will see you next time on Guiding You Forward.